Hi everyone, it's Marina Pullin. I'm the founder of The Jungle, and this week I'm actually a freelancer. I'm a gigster rocking it in Sydney, so I'm not in my kitchen. I'm in this really cool little hotel room right next to my client. It's a bit of an older hotel. I'm not going to lie, but it's bigger than the current ones, and it's got all this cool artwork and a little balcony. It's like old school. It's really cool. So I'm going to be talking to you today about some tips to build good relationships with your clients. And this has come off the back of a whole lot of messaging and marketing we're undertaking, convincing, telling and educating our business clients as to why they should probably look at the freelancer community as an adjunct to their workforce, particularly with the growth rates that we are seeing in the freelancer community, but to also dispel some of the bias and the discrimination and the myths they may have had from previous experiences that they've had with freelancers. So today's message is for you, freelancers. Here are some tips to help you improve your relationships, get great gigs, and just have a better day at work. Okay, first of all, when you are dealing with clients, be honest. I know this sounds like an incredibly crazy differentiator to be highlighting, but being honest, one, it's easier because you don't have to remember lies and all the other stuff, but it builds a sense of connection with clients that cannot be replicated. It's something really special when a client trusts you, and I'm very lucky, extremely lucky, to have amazing clients who reciprocate my efforts of trust to the point we hug each other. We actually go in for the hug quite often. I've had a couple of very emotional connections with clients, which I just simply would not have had there not been this genuine relationship building and this connection, which couldn't have happened without this mutual trust that was going on. So don't be afraid of being open up and being honest at all times. Be a bit brave, even when the temptation is there to cut a corner, maybe, tell a white lie, maybe embellish something. Just don't. Honesty is the best policy, particularly in freelancing. Second tip for great relationships with clients. And this one is, it's so boring, you may reject it. Be reliable. Yeah. The number one item that comes out in our client surveys of the attribute they look for in freelancers is, you guessed it, reliability. Now, this is not probably, I don't think it's reflective of this chaotic sector and people pinging around and what have you. I think it's probably got to do with a past experience that they've had with, the website guy, they got off the net, took the money, disappeared, was non-responsive, ghosted, or the consultant who took on too much work and, this became unreliable, ignored, all the deadline. Yeah, hey, I've been there. I had a few of those issues. And those issues were great because I chose to learn from them and really prioritize being reliable for my clients as a key attribute. For me, my guideline is with every assignment that I deliver, I want the client to tell someone else. I visualize it in my head. I want them to say, man, she just turned up. Everything just ran like clockwork. She was so reliable. We could get on with doing the magic work because I didn't have any concerns that all the basic stuff was being done. Yeah, I know, easier, right? Third one. Now, for those of you who are a bit emotionally distant and put up your walls or believe that professionalism means you have to be cold and indifferent, you're probably not going to like my third tip, and that's okay. You can ignore it. The third tip, though, in business is building great connections, really, really solid connections based on honesty and reliability, but caring for a relationship and a connection with someone else is the first step. So this will elevate your communication, the way you view your client. It will move it up the value stack to something a little bit more interesting than a pure just transaction. Like, what can you do for me? This looks at the business quite often and the client as a whole person, and you're able to build connections that will probably, if you're lucky enough like myself, you'll end up having relationships with people for many years, and they will ask you to do lots of different gigs because you're trustworthy and you are reliable and you're talented because you've invested in your skills, but you have shown an ongoing commitment to the relationship. Now, the footnote to the relationship, make sure you remind yourself that this is a professional relationship. It's not a friendship. It's not an extension of your family or any of those other more personal relationships. It's a business relationship, and you are there to do business. And I say this because I think earlier in my career, I probably blurred some of those lines, and I would look at someone and go, oh, they're really nice. And then when a commercial decision came down where they had to change firms or they chose a different consultant, I would take it personally. Like, oh my God, why didn't you choose me? And it wasn't anything to do with me a bit later, after a bit of heartache. It was simply that it wasn't a match at the time. And I think a couple of those relationships I saw with her were partially my fault because I was so hurt. I was like, why? The other thing I've got to tell you to look after yourself is sometimes you meet people who don't value the relationship with you. And we might do another video on that because it's a real shame. Unfortunately, I think there are some really terrible behaviours where people have disagreements and they don't repair from them. They will cut off communication. I had someone I used to work with who just refused to take a phone call, always avoided having a meeting, and then escalated to the client. And I was so silly. Broke the relationship entirely for all parties because of the way the whole thing was handled. And I remember after looking, the core of it was such a simple problem that was being solved, but the way it was handled was so damaging for everybody. People won't even look at each other now. It's so sad. So if if you care for your relationships, like you do your friendships or family connections, then it should come pretty easily. But if those things are a little bit more tricky, probably invest a bit of time thinking about how can I build good relationships with my clients. And the first two I mentioned before about being honest and reliable are always a good start. They're my 3 unusual tips on building up good professional brand as a freelancer to overcome some of the bias and the discrimination that might be holding back companies from going, yeah, we want to have a whole lot of freelancers to assist us in our business ecosystem. I hope this was helpful. I'm actually going to go and get some sleep because it has been a hectic week and I can see, even without my glasses, just how a bit tired and sleep deprived I am. Thank you for listening if you've made it this far, and we'll see you soon. Bye.